have a seat. I'm gonna try not to cry.
You see this? It doesn't work.
Well, not on water at least, but you know. Well, thank you so much for coming to Salt Lake City.
Oh, I'm delighted.
If I had time traveled and told my 7-year-old self that I'd be talking to Christopher Lloyd in 2015, he'd call me a liar.
Yeah, well, Back to the Future.
There you go. I mean, just going down the list. Taxi. Star Trek 3. The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. Back to the Future. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? The Addams Family. And then, now, you guys not know a movie called 20 Bucks. You guys know that? Watch 20 Bucks. That movie's fantastic. And then also, I love it because you're the voice of Murloc in DuckTales Treasure of the Lost Lake. First question, when did you know that you wanted to be an actor?
I was about 13, 14. I didn't know what else I was going to be. I didn't have any particular talents in any other area. So, and I grew up near New York City, so there was a lot of theater in that area. And I just sort of gravitated towards finishing in theaters. And then high school had sent me to New York to drama school and this.
Another role in fantastic film, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's reported that you actually stayed in a mental hospital to prepare for the role.
Yeah, I remember people in the asylum where we shot One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We did 10 group meetings, the kind of meetings that we actually had in the film, and with real patients. And there was comments that it was hard to distinguish between real patients and the cast. So, yeah, that was my first film. I never thought I wanted to do film. For years in New York, I just made no impression in that area. So, Cuckoo's Nest was my first film. Jack Nicholson was an idol of mine before I even stepped on the set. And a terrific cast and a great script. I was flabbergasted. Flabbergasted? Oh, it was a big moment for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to cry. So
Anything I can do?
You have no idea, like this. I'm like, no. This is a dream come true. I'm not kidding. It's blowing my mind a little bit. Back to the Future. How was it brought to you? Like, what was your first interaction with the script, or
Well, actually, you know the answer to this, don't you?
I may know a little bit.
Huh?
I may know a little bit.
Yeah. This whole interview is rigged.
Best friends.
No, I was doing a film, a little independent film in Mexico City, and my agent sent me a script for a film called Back to the Future. And at the same time, I had been offered, after the film, to go back east, back to New York, and do a play with a significant role in the cast. And I had come out to LA, and it wasn't going great. I had spent a lot of time in New York establishing myself as a theater actor, and I felt that I should go back to my roots, go back to New York, and stop this silly business in Hollywood. And so this script came to me, I kind of looked at it, and I literally let it drop in the wastepaper basket. And a friend of mine who was there said that one of my mottos was was never to leave any stone unturned. And I thought about that, and it was true. I always felt that way. In this business, you can't afford to just shrug off an offer. So I went back to LA to meet Bob Zemeckis, the director of the film, and that was that. He totally convinced me that I needed to do this film, and I did it. So it's just how easy it is to make a move in the wrong direction. You know what I'm saying?
So, I mean, obviously, the legendary that is the trilogy of Back to the Future. Is there one moment on set that kind of defines your experience, that, you know, how much fun it was, how much hard work it was? You know, is there anything that just pops in there?
I remember, you know, I was just in awe being on the same set with Jack Nicholson, because I just think he was a true phenomenon. He was amazing, and to be there working with him was, I can't tell you. And I remember we were doing the scene in the bathtub area where we're playing cards, and then Nicholson sprays us all with a water thing, and that shooting of that scene was interrupted because a principal member of the cast became ill, and the scene was interrupted for about a month before we got back to it. And when we got back to it, I had no idea what I was doing. I couldn't find my way. I didn't know. I lost my mojo, or whatever it is that you lose. And I just didn't know what I was doing. And Jack Nicholson very, you know, casually sort of walked up to me, and he muttered a few words, and it put me right square where I needed to be. It was a lifesaver at the time. So I am forever grateful to him, and there are a lot of other moments in the film I might talk about, but this is, I'll let them go. For instance, nobody on any set anywhere had as much fun as we did shooting the night scene when all us patients got into the medicine and took in and imbibed whatever we could get our hands on. I think you recall that? And the director just went around with a camera and shot whatever we were doing. And those were all night scenes. That was a lot of fun. It was an amazing experience. That's all I gotta say about that. Have you dried your tears?
I read somewhere that, and I wonder if you still believe this, that you at one time thought that Doc and Marty should get back together and go back to ancient Rome.
Back what?
Back to ancient Rome for Back to the Future 4. This was like a quote you said a long time ago that I'd read.
Oh, I don't recall that specifically.
Yeah? What do you want to do Back to the Future 4? Can we go back in the DeLorean and go
Definitely.
I'd go see it. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
I think we're gonna start opening up the questions. Oh, you got a line over there. Wow. Let's open it up.
Hello.
I'm so happy you're mic'd.
Oh.
There are times when this comes up, and the only person who can hear whatever she's going to ask are the two people in the front row.
Well, that's usually not a problem for me. But my question is, you did a couple of guest spots on Chuck and Psych, which are two of my favorite TV shows. And you were brilliant, of course. My question is, did you watch those shows previously, or what television shows do you watch if you watch television?
It's kind of personal.
Sorry.
I haven't watched either of those shows beforehand, but that's not unusual because I'm not a really attentive watcher. You know, I pick up this, I see this, or I see that, but I haven't watched them. But I love the script, and I love the two characters that they asked me to play. So, and they were all wonderful people to work with, so I was very happy to do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who's that?
Oh, this is Nala. She's pretending to be Toto today. So, yeah. You can say hi if you want.
Did you sneak her in here?
No, she's a service dog, so.
That's very sweet.
Thanks.
Oh.
You want to say hello? Can you say hi, Nala?
I'm not sure who wants to ask a question.
Well, my question concerns Back to the Future. I saw it for the first time 10 years ago when I was in a hotel at Disneyland. I saw Back to the Future for the first time 10 years ago. I was in a hotel room in Disneyland. And in honor of the anniversary of your movie and my anniversary of Disneyland, I was wondering what your favorite ride is. Thank you.
Oh. I'm not sure, because I've been to Disneyland, not recently, but and also Universal has a theme park. You know what I kind of really liked? There was a kind of a ride, either Disneyland or Universal, where we kind of sat in this thing, and it was a glider. And you just sail over these landscapes. And it was soaring. It didn't have any thrills like up and down and all that, but it was just kind of spacey. I like spacey. Thank you.
First off, Soaring Over California is one of my favorite rides too, so.
Oh yeah? Oh hey, we gotta talk.
You did a lot of different shows, varieties from like cartoon voiceovers, television shows, live action movies. Out of those, which did you find the most enjoyable, and which ones did you find the most challenging?
Which of what?
Like the genres, like voiceovers, live action movies.
Voiceover in movies or being in movies?
Like voiceovers, like with.
Well, when I first started doing voiceovers, I wasn't very enthusiastic about it. It was a job, but you know, I went to acting school, there was theater, and all that stuff, and all they wanted was my voice. You know, the sort of. I felt that. I wasn't delighted about the prospect. But then I started doing them, and I really got into it. It's interesting because all you have is your voice when you're doing a voiceover or you know, for a character, and you have to put as much energy into that as you would if you're on camera. And create a character, you have to all, you know, channel it through your voice, and I've really enjoyed that, and I'll be doing more of that coming up. I did a series which I'm still doing for young people called Cyber Chase. But so I really like it. I really like to. I enjoy it. And it's funny because I find myself gesticulating a lot. You know, moving my body, and sometimes they will film that. They'll film that, and if they haven't already drawn the animation, they'll use my physical behavior for the animation, for the physical animation of the character. And that's not enough of that. Thank you. better than this.
Exactly. So my question actually pertains to Cyber Chase. Love the show, it helped me get through math, so thank you.
Oh, good.
So my question is playing the hacker. What is your favorite attribute of him, and what is your least favorite?
Hacker feels he is indomitable. He knows all the answers to everything. He knows everything. He cannot be defeated. His ideas are brilliant. He knows exactly what's good for everyone. And every episode is a new way he's going to dominate Cyber Chase once and for all. And every time he fails. Every time he fails. It's just it's a fun character. But world domination.
Hi, my name is Bryson, and my family is a big fan. And my question is, what role have you played that was your most favorite that you've played? What movie was your favorite, the most favorite that you've played?
You know, when I'm asked that question, I have to, from my heart, say One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Other movies that I've done have a lot, which was wonderful, but Cuckoo's Nest was my first film, and it was with such an amazing group of people. Milos Forman directing, Michael Douglas producing, Sol Zantz producing, an incredible cast, great material, and it just, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, because it opened the doors for Taxi and many movies beyond that. So I guess Cuckoo's Nest was a big turning point for me. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
My question for you is, how did you think that 2015 this year would be when you were making the movie compared to what the movie actually was?
Excuse me. Could you just rephrase that one way?
How did you think 2015 would be when you were making the movie compared to the movie?
You know, I didn't think a lot about it. I was just hoping that Back to Future 1 would work out. And now people are coming up to me on the street, so to speak, and they say, "Hey, did you know what year this is?" And at first I thought, yeah. What about it? And I've been hearing all these things that the film predicted would be happening today, and I'm learning something new every day. And I realize, kind of related to that, who was the name of the band leader from around San Francisco who did so much of the music for Back to the Future series? Huey Lewis. I won't make him stand up. Huey Lewis. When we went and recorded, while we were still doing Back to the Future 1, somewhere around San Francisco, it was an all-night session to record the music that Huey Lewis had written and his band played. And Back to the Future, was just a project. Nobody knew anything about it. I remember we were sitting there, and Huey Lewis, it was late at night, you know, maybe 3 in the morning, and he kind of ambled over to us, you know, and he just kind of looked, he said, "Is this gonna be anything?" You know, like, is this for real or what? I mean, and I just thought that kind of captures the uncertainty at that point, what the future might bring. So I wasn't even thinking about snappy sneakers and a floating hoverboard or any of those things, but I'm learning. Thank you.
Hi, Chris. Big fan. First off, this isn't a party without dancing.
What?
It's not a party until we dance.
It's not.
It's not a party until we dance.
It's not a... Oh, I'm sorry. Hear me. They don't always work right. It's not a party till we dance. Are you inviting me?
To dance.
Next.
My question is, what is your most memorable scene from Back to the Future?
Memorable? Golly, I want to make it good. My most memorable scene from Back to the Future. Hands. Roads, where we're going, we don't need you know, I find it difficult to answer that. Well, my favorite of the three was Back to the Future, of the three of the series, Back to the Future 3 was my favorite.
It's my favorite movie too. I love that.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it was a Western, which is always, I mean, at least for my generation, Westerns were a big deal. There were, you know, series for Westerns and Western movies, all that. Just being out on that terrain in a horse, galloping along, all that kind of thing. It was so romantic. And I had my first on-screen romance with Clara. Dear Clara. And Clara and I danced. Yeah, and there was some other aspect of that. The steam engine. I don't know how many of you have been up close with an operating steam engine. They're amazing. They don't make them anymore, of course, but it's this huge hulk of a machine with all these gears and steam coming out here and there, and they kind of operate them a little bit like a sailboat. No two, even if they're identical, the same make and model, they don't, each one has its own particular characteristics. And you have to gauge all the two, because I used to sit in where the engineer is while we go from place to place, and every turn they have to gauge it. It's not just they press a button and it happens. They have to feel what the machine is going to do and not going to do. And all those scenes I had on the outside of the steam engine that was a real, it was a real treat, an amazing experience. So.
Really quick, what would the Doc Brown say right now if he was here?
If he was here?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think he'd be in awe that this film that opened in 1985, still people go to it as much as they did in 1985. I mean, it's extraordinary. And in 1985, young people, as some of you are here, we're seeing the film for the first time, and they have grown up and become married and have children of their own who have seen it, who have grown up, and it just keeps, going on. And I don't want to seem biased, but I don't know of any other trilogy like the Back to the Future movies that has had that kind of lasting power, where it just keeps on going, generation after generation. I think Doc Brown would feel, as I do, how incredibly fortunate to be a part of something that has meant so much to so many. So that's what
Hi, my question for you is Back to the Future Part 2, and now today it may not look like it did back in that movie, but from that movie, what would you like to see?
From what?
From Back to the Future Part 2, 2015. Which thing from that movie would you like to see today?
It's like I say, I'm not sure, because I don't remember distinctly what was in Back to the Future 2 that was predicting today.
There's hydratable pizza, there's hoverboards.
Will happen. Stick around one day. When I'm asked a question like that, I'll get on this thing and someday. Yeah. I did this kind of a spoof thing for some network where there was a little clip in the thing that shown before that supposedly the hoverboard had been invented. Did you all see that or not? Yeah. And then a little bit later, I did kind of a confession that it was a stunt and it hadn't really happened. But if it influenced just one person to go out and invent one that worked, it was worth it. So many people have come up to me who saw that and expressed even a little bit of anger that it wasn't real. I mean, truthfully, it was real disappointment. So.
My question for you is, when you were in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and the villain was saying, "Remember me, Eddie," and I talked just like this, did you actually say that, or was it like a different person saying it, or did they just high-pitch your voice?
Was this after I'd been steamrolled?
What?
Yeah. I don't quite remember, because they could take a person's voice and tune it the studio to make it sound, so I'm not sure if that was me or not.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
First of all, let me thank you for saving my industry, because I'm an animator, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit actually saved the animation industry. Disney and Warner Brothers were not going to make any more animated movies. They thought there was no money in it. And that's why in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, you have Daffy Duck and Donald Duck in the same scene. So thank you for saving my job, my career, first of all. Secondly, I think you may have already answered my question, which I was going to ask, what role are you most proud of? But I think you may have answered that already, so maybe I could just say, are you sick of hearing all the impressions that people do of you? Future boy!
You mean Rabbit Jim? I'm sorry.
Are you sick of hearing people doing impressions of you?
Like Back to the Future. Tell me, future boy.
Stop that. Speaking of the animation in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, most of that film was shot in London, and they had like an old factory building. It was about 4 stories high, old brick building. Walk up. It had been a factory or something, so each floor was like pretty much clear of obstacles. And I visited there a few times, and it's where all the animators did their animation work. And it was extraordinary. There was all cubicles. You went up there, there were these guys, animators from all over the world, Japan, India, China, Europe. They're doing it the old-fashioned way before everything became computerized, where each cell, so to speak, an animator would paint or draw one part of it, and then it was passed on to somebody else who added something else. And it was extraordinary. And all the animators up there looked like they lived there for years. Discarded Chinese food boxes, smoking. I mean, it was amazing. And Bob Zemeckis made that film a large part as a homage to all the great animators who created all the original Disney films, etc. So it was a real treat to see that happening. Yeah.
Hi, Christopher. My question is, well, one of my favorite movies of yours is Clue. I was wondering what it was like to work with Madeline Kahn.
Madeline Kahn. Which one?
Mrs. White.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. White. Well, I mean, they were all great. I felt that it was a real honor and privilege to be in that cast because everybody in that cast were remarkable talents, each in their own right. It was a true ensemble, and we loved it. We loved it. It didn't have that great success here, but in England, it was a big deal. And the more I'm around events like this, more and more people are coming up saying it's their favorite or one of their most favorite films. It was a lot of fun. It was great. And Madeline Kahn was wonderful. Well, as everyone else, and we did it with, the whole thing was done on a sound stage, and the interior of that house was built on the sound stage. So we lived in there for weeks. Clue stuff. Yeah. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alexis.
Hi.
I just want to know, how did you like being in Back to the Future?
How I liked it? I loved it. I loved it. I mean, Doc Brown, but I love the thing about discovery that physicists and scientists have a problem. What to do to make this happen? Or how do you put these chemicals together and come up with something that cures a disease, say, or what was it? There was a scientist that passed away just a few days ago, and he and his co-workers discovered how to make lasers. And laser technology has so vastly changed the way we do things, the things that we do in medicine, music, militarily, unfortunately, and he got the Nobel Prize. But I just love the whole concept of somebody who spends their life trying to solve some problem that seems impossible to solve, and one day they're getting on a bus or something mundane, bang, the solution suddenly comes to them. Like with Doc. Doc has slipped and fell and hit his head on the edge of the toilet seat. Bingo. He discovered the flux capacitor. Where would we be? But I just love that concept. And Doc is a man of indefatigable energy, trying to discover things like that contraption he had on his head. A failure. The opening motif in the Back to the Future 1, with that elaborate thing that opened up the cans and put the dog food. I mean, he was always figuring stuff out, and I kind of love that whole concept of discovery about him. I had two images for Doc Brown. One was Albert Einstein, E equals MC squared, and so forth. Extraordinary. Albert Einstein went on traveled across the ocean in a big ship liner, and they found that he was this genius of his time, and they couldn't find him. Somehow he disappeared, and they were worried about where was he, what happened to him, where's Albert? And they went down the bottom hold where, the lowest people living down there who couldn't afford, they were in the bottom deck, and he was there playing with a pinball machine. Who'd have thunk it? You know? And the other image I had, I feel maybe I've gone on too much about this, was I love classical music. I grew up with it around me. And there was a great conductor by the name of Leopold Stokowski. He was a conductor with the Philadelphia Orchestra, wonderful. And he did a lot of innovative interpretations of Bach and other music. And there was a piece written called The Planets, classical, where each planet is described in music of describing that planet's mythical association like the planet Mars. Music was written that was very military and harsh. Venus, goddess of love, etc. And I had that recording, and it showed the solar system on the jacket. This is back when you had records. And Leopold Stokowski had his arm raised with a baton in his hand. And he had this sharp white hair coming behind him, this profile. And that was a lot of my image for Doc Brown. I remember my father looked at that jacket and he said, I'm sure he's a great musician, but does he have to have his hair like that?
We have time for one more question.
Your character in Back to the Future, was it modeled after your character in Taxi?
I wasn't.
Was your character in Back to the Future modeled after the character in Taxi?
No. No. Reverend Jim comes from a very different place. A very different place. But thank you. It reminded me once I was in a Q&A like this, and a boy raised his hand, and they brought him a mic, and the boy asked, now that you're older, do you like not having to put on old age makeup?
I think that's all the time we have. Sincerely, thank you so much for coming to Salt Lake City.